Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to your Four Lads Rangers Monday night pod. But it's not Monday night, is it? It's Monday afternoon. And the reason for that is that I am working night shift this week. Andrew Anderson is unavailable, unfortunately, so we send our best wishes to Andrew. I'm hosting, and the only one not working is David Hare. David, how are you, mate? You well?
I'm good, yeah, thanks. Just as well you brought this old guy that's retired onto the pod, or you'd be sitting here yourself, wouldn't
you? Yeah, it would be. It's not the first time I've done a pod by myself, but it's good to have you, David. We were both in the gantry yesterday. You obviously were enjoying covering for Follow for Mark and Co. And I was there obviously on Four Lads duty. Tell me your thoughts on the game overall, and then we'll pick out a few moments just to discuss.
If we're talking about the game on the pitch, the first half was just a complete non-event. In fact, it was as bad as any game has been this season. I would have said probably most of that first half it was completely directionless. There was no intent in it. There was no tempo in it. There was no aggression in it. there was nothing in it. In fact, I don't think we had a shot at goal for about 20-25 minutes. Second half, substitution was made at half time. We got away with one at the start of the second half when they hit the post, but as soon as we scored, there was a switch flicked. All of a sudden, we started looking purposeful. We started creating chances. If it wasn't for their keeper, we could have scored 5 or 6. To be honest, I actually quite enjoyed sections of the second half. So yeah, it was one of these strange days. It was strange atmosphere. There was a lot of empty seats. It doesn't mean anything. But in saying all that, it was Aberdeen, it was 4-0. And when would you not accept that?
Exactly, yeah. I've been going to watch Rangers for a long time, as you have, Davey, and it's not often that you get to cuff them 4-0. So when they come along, we'll certainly accept it. I'm with you. It's almost like it was a game of two halves, but except our half slightly extended into 55, 60 minutes. And once we got there, I thought we were great. In that last half an hour, as you pointed out, I thought we were great. But the first half wasn't really much to report. I think the first real effort came in 21 minutes when Dessers stabbed one wide, and then he missed a really good header after a good cross from James Tavernier. And I thought we were fine. Aberdeen had that chance where they went through, and Kelly got down low to save. I think it was Heiskanen that went through, and he looks like a kind of pacey player that can cause issues. We knew that already, but he done okay, I think. And it was, and then at the end of the first half, we had those moments, didn't we? Cyril Dessers finished quite well, similarly to his finish against Celtic on the left foot. And the first thing you did to me, Davey, was nudge me in the arm and make the wee box sign, because I think we both say, I said it in those that have watched the vlog would have seen me say at the time that I thought it was offside. Cyril's born offside, and sometimes, and you were quick to say, but it was a nice move. And what I liked yesterday is they did try those. Barron and Raskin did try those penetrating direct balls, not wide, but direct into the striker's feet, and that one did work, albeit it was a lovely goal. Unfortunately, Cyril just offside.
Yeah, the Dessers comment, and you have to laugh at that. I don't think there's probably not a game he's played this season that he's not been caught offside 2 or 3 times. It's just balling offside. I need to try and remember that one. I do think some of the attempted play around about the area was promising in the first half without really being too penetrating. I thought it made a big difference having Iggerman beside Dessers in the second half. There was a second person for him to try and play off of, because although Czerny was allegedly up front beside Dessers, he kind of wanders out a bit, and Dessers has left himself in the box. Bajrami, I think, was the one that was meant to get up beside him, but a nightmare game. But yeah, I just felt that the formation that we played didn't really suit the way the first half was. We stuck to the same team as last week, which was probably a talking point in itself. This diamond in midfield, it means you sacrifice width, and with Aberdeen not trying to go forward and just sitting off us, it meant we were trying to go through the middle a lot, and there wasn't a lot of room. Made a big difference in the second half, I thought, when Czerny moved into that position that Bajrami was in, because he got forward better, and suddenly you had 3 forwards, and that made a big difference to me. But yeah, it was.
I would agree with that, Davey. I think Czerny going into that middle really helped, and it gave him more options as well, because he can go either side, which I really liked. I thought it was an excellent pass by Raskin, but Aberdeen, I thought Aberdeen were dreadful yesterday. I've got to be honest, they were really passive. I was surprised at his selection, leaving Nisbet, Papagaye, and Shaden Morris out of the team. We talked about that beforehand. I was surprised about that. And then they hit the post, and it seemed to wake us up, and scored a nice first goal. And I think just at this point, I think Raskin really, it was almost like somebody put 50 pence in him, Davey, because I think at that moment he really came onto his game. He obviously had the boost from a terrific pass. He actually had a really good pass in the first half, where Czerny went on the right-hand side and he didn't manage to get it, but it was a lovely pass and move through ball as well. And I just felt like Raskin began to boss the game, and he set up the second really well as well.
Yeah, well, he got the man of the match at the stadium. I don't think there was very many people would have disagreed with it. I can't imagine he's going to still be a Rangers player next summer, to be honest with you. He stands out a mile in a poor Rangers team. He's playing well in European games against good opposition. He's now a Belgian international. Only 2 years left in his contract. I can't see him signing another one. I think the fee we get for him is I think is part of the big rebuild this summer, which is a shame, because I'd love to see him in a better Rangers team, because I think in a better team he'd have stood it even more. But I think that's where we are with him. I've went on all season about I want us to make him captain next season. I've still got this little bit in the back of my head that you never know what might happen, but I think if I'm being realistic, I think probably we'll see him for the last time at Ibrox this Wednesday night.
Yeah, look, sadly, I think here's the thing. I think Nico Raskin's now is his peak point of selling for Rangers, and we have to realise that as a club where we are, that when players get to this point, because it's not so often it happens, David, but when players get to this point, I think we have to be realistic and say with 2 years on, see if he would sign another contract, absolutely, you would keep him, you would reward him, and you would do all that. But I just don't see it as being achievable. I think he's destined, I think, to go on to bigger and better things. I think his cameo for Belgium in that game against Ukraine, where he kind of bossed it, and I think that's where you go. I wouldn't keep him another year and risk going into his last season. I wouldn't do it. I think you're talking really big money for Nico that we can't turn down. And that could be, if you think maybe this new board would give us 10 million to spend, maybe 10 million, right? And if you're being really kind of, I don't know, if you're being conservative about that guess, right? If you got 10 million from the board and you were able to pick up your 3.5 million for Dowell and Davies, your 1 million for Cifuentes, your 1 million for Proper, would you get interest in Cyril Dessers? Would you get interest in Redvan for another 3-4 million pounds? You put all that together and you get a big fee for Nico Raskin. That's the kind of money, Davey, that we need to completely go over and rebuild this team. But Rangers did go on to score a third goal and a fourth goal, which we enjoyed very much. The third goal, why can't I remember the third goal, Dave?
Iggerman's volley for the edge of the box.
Of course it is. Jeez, of course it is. I kept getting mixed up with Czerny's moment. Iggerman's volley. What do you say about him? I think yesterday I loved his skill down the left-hand side where he chipped it a couple of times and then played it back over. I thought that was excellent. His finish was lovely, right into the bottom corner on the volley, of course. I think he's another year. Same as Diamandi, same as Jeffy's probably another couple, but I think Iggerman's another year as your 9 for me. Maybe not starting every week, but you would hope by Christmas time out he would be round about a starter every single week. And yeah, Kenny's sitting watching us on lunch. Old age kicking in, Stephen. Absolutely is. But that was a lovely goal, Davey, for the third. A lovely finished volley into the corner.
Absolutely. I was on last week, and I was expressing a bit of frustration about Igaman, because I thought in recent games he was, and probably because he's not been starting, I think he's trying too hard. I think he was trying too much, and he was taking on one player too many, and he was shooting from positions he shouldn't shoot. I thought he was putting himself before the team a little bit the last couple of times I'd seen him, but I thought yesterday he was back to being the Igaman that we all want to see leading the line next season, and we all think could make us a fortune in years to come. There's the natural ability there is there in spades. I think it's just game intelligence that needs to get added to it, and that'll happen. That'll come, and I think that's exactly why it's too early to sign him, to sell him, because I don't think his game intelligence is enough to play regularly in a big league yet. I think he needs to learn the game. How many professional games has he played? He's probably only played 40 or 50. I think it's early for him, and I do think he's at a good place to learn, and he's at a good place that he'll see a lot of the ball, he'll get a lot of chances. A lot of his mistakes won't get punished because we'll still win. I think he's in a good club to learn the trade at the moment. The tools are there, and I think in 2 years' time he could earn us a right good few bob.
Yeah, Natalie says, I think we're more likely to lose Igaman than this summer than Raskin. Would ideally love to keep both. It would be the best business we could do in the summer. I disagree. I think switch it around. I think Raskin goes this summer. I really do. I just think Raskin's peaked now. And I think once you get to that level, he'll be looking to move on, which I think is absolutely fine. I agree with Stuart as well when he says that Hamza's future sale now 8 to 10 million. Have a solid 12 months. And if he peaks the way that Raskin has now, yeah, you're looking at a lot more money, that's for sure. Davey, there was still time for a fourth goal. It was good build-up, actually, down the right-hand side. Barron was involved, and we kind of work it back over. Czerny then takes it inside, plays a 1-2 with Jeffy, gets it back, and then scalps it off Jeffy's arse to go in for 4-0. And listen, it's a kind of luck that we maybe haven't had. But when Rangers start to move it about and look comfortable, and yeah, look, it's a friendly-ish game. You know, it's a very much end of season. Aberdeen going through the motions. It's like a pre-season game in the crowd. You know, so it's all nice and relaxed. And we know that this team can play at this moment when in these types of moments. But it was a nice wee goal for the fourth, and Jeffy, who I thought done all right yesterday, wasn't really tested defensively, but gets a de facto first goal for Rangers.
Yeah, I must admit, I didn't realise at the time it hit him. Just for where we were sitting, I didn't see the deflection. It's good that he gets his first goal. I think it's something that is missing in his game, his goals and assists. I think he sees a lot of the ball, but his final pass, I think, can be unpredictable, to put it mildly. I don't think he gets in goal-scoring positions often enough for the amount that he gets forward. Getting a first goal is good for him. I agree with you earlier on when you said about he's another year or two away from being able to sell on the market for some decent money, because I think he's a bit too raw as well. And he's another one I don't think played a lot of top football before he came to Rangers. I think he's actually learning his trade at the club, the way Igaman is. I know there was stories earlier in the season about Chelsea looking at him. That'll be a disastrous move for him. He would just end up on loan in some outpost in Belgium, something like that, and he would never be thought of at Chelsea, I wouldn't think. So he's better staying as well. And with Yilmaz's injury record, and he's still got a bit of a reputation in Turkey, you'd like to think that next season it'll be Jeffy and another left back competing for that position.
Well, I would agree, because I don't think that Ridvan Yilmaz, who I quite like actually, see when Ridvan Yilmaz is on form, I tend to think he's quite a good left back. He's quite wiry, gets involved. He's actually performed pretty well in a couple of the Old Firm games. He's never fit, Davey. That's the biggest issue. We go 3, 4, 5 games and off he pops injured, and we don't see him again for 8 weeks, and that's no use. Jeffy, for me, is second choice left back. You need a very sturdy, solid left back going in there, and then you can give Jeff the games where he's able to play in them. You can give him minutes, and it would actually help his development as well, because I don't think he's ready to play every week, but he has been, and he's been durable, and he's been available. So give him credit for that. And for his first season, he's cost us a few goals. Look, I don't think that's unreasonable to say that he's cost us a few times at the back post. The one at Old Trafford kind of springs to mind. But he's a young lad. He's learning, and I like him. And in a season, in a summer where you might have a list of 20 odd players you want to get rid of, that's maybe not realistic. You're going to have to try and bring in some people and keep others and redevelop others. So that's where I am with him. But overall, Davey, look, 4-0 at home to Aberdeen. I've been watching Rangers and going to games for 30 odd years now, and it's not often you cuff them 4-0 at Ibrox. So that's a very enjoyable one. I think they were poor. I don't think they were really in it. Cup final and that coming up for them. I think they've got bigger fish to fry, they would say. But for us, it was a decent wee kickabout. And on to Wednesday. It doesn't mean anything really, but on to Wednesday. And we were both in the press conference, and there was a couple of things that we kind of were a concern to me, certainly. We need to talk about Oscar Cortez again. Didn't come on yesterday. We've given ourselves, that deal, £3.5, £4 million. Barry talks about seeing players in training and basically being able to pick players on what they're doing in training. He more or less, Davey, and no words really, he more or less told us that he's useless in training, not pulling a leg, and that's why he doesn't get a game. And for a young guy that we've committed this outlay to, it's extremely worrying.
Yeah, I think I share your concern. I think it's more than just Cortez. I'll get back to Cortez in a minute, I suppose, but I think Barry's team selections, like on the bench yesterday, really frustrated me. So, unless Nsiala was injured, and if he was, I haven't heard about it. I've got no idea why Proper was on the bench and Nsiala wasn't, for example, because we've seen Proper enough. We know he's not going to be good enough. We know we're going to be trying selling him in the summer. Nsiala, yeah, he's made a few mistakes. He's young, but he's got the potential to actually succeed at our club. And a match with nothing at stake, you'd think he'd be the one that you would either play or you'd certainly have in reserve. So I don't know why he didn't have Nsiala there. Tom Lawrence coming on is an absolute mystery to me. I'm racking my brains to understand why he was there at all. Young Curtis was on the bench. Surely, if you want to see an attacking player coming on when the game's done, 20 minutes to go, let's see what he can do against Aberdeen again. Because the last time he played at wing back, why would you bring Tom Lawrence on? You know he's leaving. And then Cortez is the other one. So if he's that bad in training, what's he doing on the bench? Why is there at all? For me, if you're going to put him there, then you must think that you've got a chance of bringing him on. And if there's a chance of bringing him on, he can't be that bad. And if we have really stuck with £4 million, we might as well try our very best to get some kind of money's worth out of it. He's certainly not going to improve, or he's not going to have any confidence, or he's not going to think he fits in if all he ever hears is negative stuff and he sits there and watches the games and never takes part in them. Wednesday night, will he play? I very much doubt it, going by that press conference yesterday. I think after listening to Ferguson yesterday, it wouldn't surprise me actually if Cortez isn't even on the bench on Wednesday. Because without saying it, I took exactly the same as you did. He just doesn't rate him at all. It's actually as simple and straightforward as that. And that's a massive concern financially. And it's also another big question mark above the recruitment staff who decided Cortez was worth the investment that we've invested in.
I think the biggest thing for everyone was the fact he was injured for so long, and we didn't try and just say, right, okay, we'll extend the loan maybe for another 6 months, maybe another year. It's frustrating. Do you know what was positive though? I like seeing Casavirzo I would like to see him continue. If we could extend his loan, I'd be quite happy with that. I think he's a footballer. I really do. I think there's a real good player in there, and that versatility I like. I really liked Bailey Rice coming on. I thought, and listen, yes, the game was absolutely dead as a doornail. I know that, but I thought that he was effortless. That was a question I said to Barry. And there was a nice wee moment actually where Kelly took a goal kick and he passed it to Rice, and Rice just turned and away he went, and the whole pitch opened up and we ended up breaking. We didn't score from it, but it was just a really nice moment where you kind of thought, if we had had a 6 for this in most of the season, would these things have happened? So moving on from yesterday, I think we can kind of wrap up yesterday there. It's done and dusted, Davey. Somewhat thankfully, in a way that we're getting closer to the end of the season, which we all want. But there was a story yesterday, David, which interested me, and I think it interested everybody. Rangers seem to be targeting, according to reports, David Ancelotti, Carlo's son, who was Carlo's assistant at Everton, well known to Kevin Thelwell, as potentially being a manager target. That interests me. Surely Big Don Carlo has got an abundance of Real Madrid B players that he could send over to us that we could have done. Maybe a winger, maybe a left winger. But in all seriousness, I just thought that was interesting. I've got to be honest with you, right? Of all the names mentioned, I still think Steven Gerrard is there and thereabouts. But the name of Danny Roll really interested me from Sheffield Wednesday, because he's got such a big admiration for the work he done there, taking them from bottom to 12, keeping them up in a team where they maybe shouldn't have. So I think that the Ancelotti thing is interesting as well. What do you make of the recent manager rumours, Davey? And are you in a certain camp, or are you in a certain style of manager that you would want?
I think the camp I'm in is going to sound very familiar, because I've heard you and Kenny talking about this before, and it's almost as if we're all going to club together. But I think where we are right now, with the rebuild that's required, with the gap we've got, with the absolute need to hit the ground running next season, to challenge the title and to win the title, I don't think risk is a word I'd want to use when it comes to the managerial appointment. I think the managerial appointment needs to be someone who has got the CV and the experience that we think will be able to get it from day one. Ancelotti is a very interesting name. I don't know whether he would be working at all these clubs if his dad wasn't there right enough. So I'm not quite sure how much of his CV is down to his talent, and how much of it is down to the fact that his dad works at the biggest clubs on the planet, and he tends to follow him around. So, Gerrard had never had a managerial job before Rangers. Souness had never had a managerial job before Rangers. So you could say it could be somebody that's never been a manager before. But they had a background in British football, I think, and in club football, city rivalries, etc., that gave them a better chance, I think, of being able to hit the ground running than somebody like this. So I'm not really in a place where I think a wise move would be to take a punt on somebody completely unproven. I'm not saying I absolutely want Gerrard, but of the names that keep cropping up, I still see him as a better candidate than the names I hear.
So it does. I mean, Blue Mac says we need a guy that can come in and win straight away. Right, that's every single manager appointment that any football club makes, and it's not easy. Every manager, even Steven Gerrard to an extent, will be a project, because Steven would need to come in and rip the squad up and start again and have it getting going. I still think that he has the side of it that he has been here before, done it before, knows what's required, would then be able to understand the passion the expectation at Rangers. So that, you know, is obviously important and what we should be looking at. But just folks, before we go any further, just a thanks to our members, our YouTube members. You can see them going across the bottom of the screen. Some extra content coming up for you guys. We interviewed in the last week or so Stephen Smith, Rangers Academy coach, and Bob Malcolm. So that is for the upcoming Helicopter Sunday documentary, which Davey's working really hard on, and we'll put that together. That will all be available for members. What we'll do is we'll clip some of the Stevie Smith and Bob Malcolm stuff and use it for the documentary, but the full podcast interviews, which are really good, will be available for all members to watch. And what I would say as well is a massive thanks to Stevie and Bob. I offered both of them, could we get you a meal? Could we, you know, send over a few beer? Could we do both of them? Not interested. Really happy to help. Bob especially had a good laugh with it. But these boys are brilliant. Happy to give up, you know, half an hour of their time. We also do have a fairly big podcast being recorded on Wednesday with a former player, which I'm excited about. It'll be interesting to see everybody's reaction to this one. So they'll all be available for members. If you want to become a YouTube member, you can simply follow the description or sign up. I think we're approaching 150 new members, which is incredible. So with that said, Davey, thank you to everyone that's watching and has been joining in. There's a few questions that have come up, which I've taken and just put to the side. Natalie was first. She asked, think we can expect a manager appointment before June? Right, here's the thing, and I'll tell you honestly, I don't know is the answer to who's going to get this Rangers job. I know they're interviewing. I know a couple of people that have been interviewed, or I know a couple of names, but that's all I know about it. I don't know anything. If you ask me my opinion on could we expect a manager appointment before June, 100%. I think that takeover-wise, they'll be aiming for the first couple of weeks in June. And I don't think that will stop a manager appointment in the slightest. So that's my opinion on it. I think in the next couple of weeks, maybe perhaps towards, you know, the last weekend in the month, I think we'll be thereabouts for a new manager. David, do you share that optimism?
Well, I've obviously not got as many contacts as you've got, but I'll be quite surprised if we haven't appointed the manager by June the 1st. I'm not saying the takeover will be complete by then, well, not on paper anyway, but I'll be quite surprised if we don't have somebody in place for them. The sporting director might not be in the door as such, but I'm quite sure he's already working hard on it. I'm quite sure that the new owners, the current board, have already had multiple discussions, talked to several candidates, and it wouldn't surprise me if you remember, Gerrard got appointed. I think it was just before the last game of the season when he got appointed. It wouldn't surprise me if it was sometime second half of May that we find out who the manager is.
Yeah, I think so. A lot of people say it needs to be soon. I would agree. I had a question earlier on from Lewis Barber. Any truth in Moutinho Buma rumours? Really think we should be pushing to bring back Sima. Right, as far as I'm aware, Moutinho was the Brazilian boy, the next Pogba or whatever nonsense, and he spent about 4 seasons out on loan. That was denied immediately, completely denied. Everybody's famous and lovable person that denies everything on the Rangers press area denied that one as well. Buma, the centre half, I think, again, just rumours. We are going to be linked with 100 players this summer, even more so with takeover and things coming in. I do not believe that either of those, or certainly not that I believe it, but both of those were kind of not rubbish as such, but just not given any credence. So I think that's there. Davey, we should be pushing to bring back Sima next season if it's affordable. Abdallah Sima at Rangers again is a no-brainer, but could we afford him? Could we get him? Would you take him back?
Oh, would I take him back? Absolutely, man. I've got this I've got this front three in my head of Sima, Cherny and Igaman next season, but whether we could afford to do such a thing, I have my doubts. I hate giving the other lot any credit for anything, but the previous manager they had absolutely understood what it was needed for an Old Firm team to win week in, week out, and that was high tempo, aggression, width, pace, and goals right across the front line. See, if you do that, you're laughing. And I think Sima would fit perfectly into that. What I've got in my head as to the way we should be playing next season. I think he had something like the best part of 20 goals when he went to the African nations in the January, didn't he? So if he had a full season and full season fit, you would think he would have scored a lot more than Dessers has scored, despite the fact he wasn't a centre forward.
I've got to say, I disagree with that. Tillman was sensational for Rangers, really was sensational. Tillman would be my lone choice every single day of the week. I thought Tillman was incredible, and I like Sima and I like Cherny, both excellent players and have done, but Tillman is extra special for me. If you got Tillman with Raskin behind him and another midfielder in there, we'd be in absolute dreamland. So I disagree slightly with that one. Another question. I thought this was interesting, Davey. Is it possible that Barry's putting Dessers in the shop window by constantly selecting him? This is interesting because that's an interesting chain of thought in my head, because I feel that Dessers is one of the assets as such we have. Now, I'm not saying he'll get £7-8 million, but £4-5 million for Cyril Dessers with interest in him, especially with his European exploits. Could he be playing him consistently to make sure he keeps his goal return 25 plus? You can't knock him in terms of he's always there. I mean, he missed chances yesterday that you were thinking, Christ, how you missed that? But he's still there to knock one in. He's durable. He's always available. Interesting to think that he's 31 right next window. See, if he wasn't, I don't think there would be a clamour to sell him as such. I know he misses chances. I know he does. I know he frustrates the life out of you. Some weeks he's not there at all. I get that. With his age, Davey, I'm selling him because I think we need to. It goes back to the Raskin thing about cashing in at the right time. Now's the right time to cash Dessers in. Is Barry playing him because of that reason, just to keep that up? It's not a bad. We're never going to know, but it's not a bad point, I would say.
It's possible that's part of the reasoning. My personal view is I just think Barry's playing the team that he thinks is going to win a particular game. I don't think he's looking forward much more than just his spell in charge. And I think what I alluded to earlier on with some of the decisions he's making in young players versus experienced players and the benches that he's putting out and stuff like that, I think it's telling us that he's more into the here and now than into the what's going to happen next season. I tend to agree a bit about what you're saying with Dessers. I do think if we are going to sell him, it would need to be this summer, I think, because I don't think his value will go in any direction other than down. And I do think that he has shown that he can score at a high level and score a decent number as well. In fact, I suppose if Rangers were a more successful team and Dessers has just done exactly what he'd done this season, scored 25 goals, scored a few in Europe, one Old Firm goal, if he'd done exactly what he'd done this season, but Rangers had actually won a couple of trophies, I think Dessers would be a bit of a hero. But the long and the short is you don't get very many heroes in Rangers teams that finish 17, 20 points behind the league and win nothing. And he's missed too many big chances in big games, especially against that lot. And I think that's the millstone that's round his neck and will stay around his neck until the trophy thing changes. What would I do? I wouldn't have him as my first choice centre forward next season if he stayed. And if this whole bit about who do we sell in the summer, a lot of that is determined by, well, what bids are you going to get in the summer? I mean, it's dead easy to talk about, we'll sell this one. So, for example, yes, we'll sell Robin Proper. Well, we need to probably send some emails out to clubs in Holland asking them, do they want him? Because I don't think he will attract offers otherwise. Whereas I think Dessers will attract offers. And depending on what league it comes from, Spain, Italy, somewhere like that. You never know. You could get your money back plus. And at 31 years old, at the time of a rebuild, with Egerman already there, I think selling him's probable, more than possible. And if he goes, I think he's been a bit unlucky in terms of the reputation he'd have when he goes. But at the same time, it's time to be brutal with the squad we've got and make hard-nosed decisions. And if we get an offer of 4 or 5 million quid for a 31-year-old who still misses more than he scores and hasn't got a great big game record, then I think we'll take it.
Yeah, I think that's interesting. Certainly. One last question I noticed popped up. John Lammy, what's your thoughts on the goalkeeper position? Stevie, would you like to buy a new keeper or keep Kelly in goals and sell Butland? Interestingly, I'm playing at Ibrox in goals on Saturday, so you never know. The old sponsors are having a kick around on the park, so I've been encouraged to get the gloves back on. So yeah, you never know. It could be a return of the old Stevie from Cool School Primary. In all seriousness, what would I do? I would sell Jack Butland. I'm sorry. And here's why. And I've talked about this on the show before. Liam Kelly's a really good backup goalkeeper. He's Scottish. He's homegrown. He's not leaving this football club. He's very reliable. In terms of decent number twos, I think he's the same level as your kind of Neil Alexanders. And Neil done really well for us. I think Liam's just the same. I think Liam suffers from having a very bad defence and squad in front of him, but he's made some good saves for us. He's very reliable, comfortable at crosses. He's not infallible. Listen, he's made a few mistakes, but he's a backup. And here's the issue. I think Jack Butland has had a calendar year of mistakes, which started in March or so last season. He never really recovered, and at the point where he was dropped, he was regularly throwing them in. I think he's on too much money to be a backup. Could he recover with a really important defence in front of him, or a really good defence in front of him, I should say? That's going to take investment, and that's going to take shrewd signings. And I also think there's too much baggage where the crowd aren't completely convinced by him anymore. So I think Jack Butland in the summer would be moving on. I still think there'd be interest. He's English born, etc. Teams down south are always looking for goalkeepers, especially homegrown. I think there would be interest. You wouldn't be getting millions for him, that's for sure. But I don't think that you're keeping Jack Butland as a backup. He's either your number one or he's not. And I don't think he's shown the form in the last year to be our number one. So I'm selling Butland and I'm looking for a number one. And I'm quite happy for Liam Kelly to be there pushing that number one. David, do you have any other suggestions when it comes to that?
I'm finding it hard to disagree with all of that. I think Butland's downfall, I think, started at the 3-each game last year against Celtic, and then the cup final. 2 really high-profile games that he made it, and it's just went downhill since then. And so many big games, not just errors, but errors at the worst time and the worst games that you could possibly make them in. I think his stock is probably lower than it's ever been since he joined us. And all the talk of getting 10 million last summer when he was meant to be not for sale, we're never going to hear that again. But he will be one of the highest paid players at the club, I would imagine. No, he will never be a number 2. He can be a number 2 at Manchester United or a Manchester City or an Arsenal or something like that, but he's not going to be a number 2 at Rangers. He's got to go. And I totally agree. I think Kelly reminds me, you mentioned Neil Alexander. I was going to say John McLaughlin. There was Al McGregor and John McLaughlin, wasn't there? And there was a bit of a clamour at one time that McLaughlin should overtake McGregor. But then when you actually saw the two keepers, you realised the difference in class between the two of them. I see him more like McLaughlin was. Somebody you can rely on to step in, but not somebody that you're going to play 50 games a season and be your number one. I don't know who it should be. I'll be honest, I haven't got a name in my head, but I can't imagine that the clear out in the summer won't include Butland, because I think his time at Rangers is obviously over.
Yeah, as brutal as that might be, mate, then yeah, I think so. A couple of people say no to Kelly either. Kelly as a backup, homegrown, Scottish, etc., is fine. Is absolutely fine. I really like Jack Butland. I would love him to be back to the same kind of form that we know he can be, but the issue is that I'm just not sure. After such a long, this wasn't like a 3, 4, 5, even a 2 month period. Jack Butland has been making mistakes for a full calendar year, even in games where you don't think. And I seen compilation of stuff that Butland had kind of his form the other day, and even that European game where we won 2-1 at home, and we went. He got beat by that header from the edge of the box, and it kind of looked in. His positioning was all over the place, and I don't know. I just think he's completely lost his way. As such, that's difficult to reverse. It really is, and unless you go somewhere new, you get a fresh. You can put that all on, so you get a fresh challenge and things. So he's one of many questions I think for the summer, but that's for sure. But listen, with regards to our podcast, we've been live now, just coming up for 45 minutes or 1,700 people watching. And I just thank absolutely every single one of you. Thank all our members on YouTube. As I said, we do have some extra content coming up. There'll be those interviews with Stevie and Bob available for members, and you'll get a first look at the anniversary Helicopters Sunday anniversary documentary, as well as our big interview with a former Rangers player, which we're recording this Wednesday, which will be interesting for everybody to watch. You'll all get first views for that. So really appreciate your help and support of the channel. Davey, thank you, mate, for joining us on this Monday afternoon. It is an earlier podcast, folks, as we said, because we aren't able to go live tonight. Andrew isn't available, unfortunately. Kenny's working at the moment, would be available, but we don't have a host and things. So we're trying to still bring you a regular content, and we're sorry that it's earlier. But Davey, as I said, thank you for joining me, mate. I've thoroughly enjoyed it.
My pleasure. My pleasure. I'd like to just echo what you said at the start and just wish Andrew all the best. I hope he's back with us sooner rather than later. Because you didn't call me your favourite podder. He always calls me that, and I'm feeling a little bit left out now. So yeah, we've only got one more game at Ibrox left. I'm not say I'm looking forward to it particularly, but it'll be interesting to see how many people decide to attend it. It'll be interesting to see what team information the manager goes with against the United. And it'll be interesting to see the lap of honour at the end, how many people are going to say farewell to Ibrox for the last time. I suspect there'll be quite a few of them that we won't see again after Wednesday.
Yeah, I think you're right. You're working, aren't you? You're on for
follow again, yeah.
On the gantry. So yeah, we will catch up then. Ladies and gentlemen, thanks everybody for tuning in and watching us this afternoon. Coming up on the weekly schedule, match vlog on Wednesday night. So we have that. We will be back Thursday night. I think the podcast is going for the weekend. And then we will also cover on Sunday matchday vlog for the women who have their final game against Hibs. Victory yesterday against Celtic. Massive congratulations to the women for that. That 1-0 victory meant they're 3 behind Hibs, level with Glasgow City, but again, they are ahead. They've got like about 1 million more goal difference than both of those teams. What it means is Rangers need to go away at Hearts, on Wednesday night. If they win that, it means it's a straight shootout with Hibs, but they would have to beat Hibs on Sunday. Now, even if Hibs were to drop points with, I think they're at Celtic on Wednesday night, you would still imagine that Glasgow City would win their final game against, I think it's against Motherwell. So we really need to win both our last games. There's no kind of Dubai about that one, but the women have at least got themselves back into it. They're 3 games away from a domestic treble, which has never been done before. 3 victories would take them there. So we wish them all the luck. I'll be with them on Sunday as we play Hibs at Ibrox. If you can get yourself along, I think it's a couple of £2 entry, so please try and do that. So good luck to the women with their big game on Wednesday. Davey and I will be on retrospectively on Wednesday night a match day vlog. Davey will be covering for Follow. I'll be doing the vlog by myself for 4 lads, but at least he can keep me company. Don't do the quiz with Davey, by the way. The boy, man knows everything about Rangers with regards to the history and everything else. But on that note, there's 1,700 of you watching. Please subscribe. That really, really helps us. If you can drop us a subscribe and a like on YouTube, it really helps. and we appreciate that. Thanks to Craig and all our YouTube members. If you want to join our YouTube members, get access to that early content, etc., then it's as little as 99p a month, and that helps us do extra things. It helps us do documentaries and all that sort of stuff, and keeps us being able to do that. So on that note, thanks to everybody for joining us this Monday afternoon. 1,700 of you, unbelievable. We really appreciate it on behalf of Davey and I and everybody at Four Lads. Get well, Andrew Anderson. We miss you, mate. Hopefully you're back soon. And everybody else, have a great Monday. We'll catch you midweek. Take care. Thanks very much for joining us.
Bye.
The Four Lads podcast is sponsored by Rhino Express, Clydeview Joinery, Athol Industrial Solutions Limited, and CSD Air Conditioning, in partnership with Black Rooster and Art of Gold. Thank you for listening to or watching the podcast. We hope you enjoyed the show.